don't think we've got a copy of the minutes. Kenny, have you got a copy? I don't think Beth got them to us, so we'll probably wait until the next meeting and approve this one and the last one.
She emailed it.
Okay, so we'll pass that up. Treasurer's report, Glenna gave that before, so we're going to let that go. If y'all have any questions for the treasurer, then she'll be more than glad to answer any questions after court. One thing I wanted to do before, if it's okay with y'all, we wanted to cancel the GIS agreement with Kirksville Water. We're still negotiating the contract and haven't really come to terms. Tom's still working on that, so we'd like to put that off just a little bit until we can meet again. And at this time we'll go into the order of business, and we're very happy to have Brian Thomas, the county attorney from over at Clark County. Mark and I have been over to meet with him, and they have really initiated a home incarceration program that has been very, very successful. They're kind of a model program for a lot of people, and with our jail population, with the trouble that we're having, overpopulation I might add, we think this could be a very valuable tool for not only the jail but for the fiscal court and the district court and Mark's office and everybody else that's involved, the jailer, everybody. So Brian, if he's brought a presentation to kind of tell us what they've done over there, how they've worked to make this successful, and I've asked Brian to come over and give us, and Steve's with him, so give us a little demonstration on what they're doing, how they're doing it, and then what the results are. Brian?
Good.
Steve?
Magistrates, I'm so used to calling them commissioners because we just went to a commissioner system with magistrates, and Judge Clark, I thank you for allowing me to be here. I brought Steve Noble with me, and one of the things that we're experiencing in Clark County, as are the other 119 counties, are expenses that are just out of control. And one of those expenses that has been...
Would you care to get the mic, because we need to get you on TV talking about it.
You need to...
We might have to do it.
Well, that'll be all right. One of the things that we're experiencing is just an increasing expense, and a portion of our budget is going to jail expenses, the incarceration of those individuals. And we were, a couple of years ago, we've been inundated by home incarceration programs from across the state that are coming to us telling us what a great program they've got and how they are going to save us all this jail money. But what we find out is, as we utilize these facilities and these private for-profit companies, is that they're making money and the county was making nothing. It was just a way to keep people out of jail. And that's a good concept until you begin to realize that you've got to coordinate when are these people going to be there, what days are going to be your court days, what days are they going to hook them up, do they have sufficient bracelets and straps and GPS monitoring devices to make that available. So last January of 2010, we entered into a contract with a monitoring company, and what we did is we said, look, we will let you be the exclusive provider of our home incarceration, but we in Clark County, our fiscal court wants a cut. You're going to pay us a portion of those fees. So the hookup fee was $100. We got $25. The monitoring company got $75. The monitoring costs were $12 a day. Our county got $3. They got $9. And it seemed to work. There were some costs. The problem is that it was cost prohibitive from the participant. And I think we all can agree, if someone has there are different levels of crimes. There are those that are violent, that need to be in jail. There are those that maybe not so violent, flagrant non-support. I would rather them be working than sitting in jail, but I'd like to monitor them so I know where they are. So we were putting those individuals on these programs. What we found out is that it was so cost prohibitive that our numbers, we really weren't seeing any benefit. Our jail still was at about 208 people. We have a 165 bed facility, and we had about 208 people in there. It cost us about $30.84 a day to keep an inmate. So, and we were having to buy additional beds, and food costs were skyrocketing. So that we went through that for about a year and a half. And last spring, Steve Noble, who works for our sheriff's department, and I began to discuss different alternatives as to how we could make this a more effective and better program. So what we did is we created the position of Home Incarceration Director, and Steve serves in that capacity in Clark County. Although he works for the Sheriff's Office, he answers to our fiscal court. So the money that he makes, the decisions that he makes, what he does, how he spends his money is governed by the fiscal court, not by the detention center, not by the Sheriff's Department. And what that does is that allows ownership to remain with the fiscal court. What we have done beginning in January or in July is we implemented our own program. We now do our own hookups. We set the fee for our hookups. We actually set the fee for what it's going to cost, and we have been able to see a tremendous change in the number of people that are on and how those individuals are treated within our system. So what we've done is we've done away with the middleman. We now order directly from a company that provides the federal probation and parole bracelets. I figure if it's good enough for the federal government, it's good enough for us. And our costs for the system, what is it, $4? About $4.95.
It's not showing on the television.
Being a son of a. Y'all got that Time Warner, Roadrunner or something? I'm surprised we even got cable. I'm surprised.
Don't get Larry started on the cable.
It was cloudy this morning. I just couldn't even get cable.
You've done it now.
Mayor, you're not leaving us, are you?
It only takes so much of good government.
So is he headed back to run the city then?
Yeah.
Kind of oxymoron. He don't take so much good government.
You said the wrong word. Time Warner. I told you you'd have to duck.
If they don't hurry, Billy Ray won't tell a banjo joke here in a minute.
I got some mule
I
jokes.
don't wanna hear 'em. I don't wanna hear 'em.
You don't have no banjo jokes, dude. You wore us out on them. I thought you'd have some new ones about today. I need to get you off and tell you some new ones. You probably wouldn't be able to tell them here. You clean them up a little bit, you probably tell them.
You don't have to tune the banjo.
Yes, sir, now I do. You told me.
Can't. I believe we get somewhere. Dwayne, he's been sitting back there. He's about ready to make his move.
What are you doing? When I get well enough to go get one, man, I'm going back to the doctor today.
Oh, is that what it is?
Better get a stick on.
TV matter? We're still gonna have it here? Still gonna have it here.
Maybe we can go ahead and proceed and just, we'll have the benefit of watching the PowerPoint here.
Just a second.
Sorry. We're using the same equipment as probation and parole to utilize our program. One of the things is that, like I said, we went through a series where our home incarceration was run through the jail, and no disrespect to any jailer in the Commonwealth, but they're like everybody else. If the money comes in their budget, they're going to spend it. They don't understand that, or maybe they understand, they say, well, let's see what we can do. You as the fiscal court are responsible for housing these people. So, you all allocate money to the jail, and they're supposed to run upon those, and they're, in excess of what their expenses are. You can make up that difference. So what we did is we created the home incarceration program. All the profits and all the expenses now come through the fiscal court. So if we make money, we keep it in our fiscal court budget. It doesn't go through the jail. And then if we spend money, of course, it's the responsibility of the fiscal court. I'm going to turn it over to Steve Noble, let him tell you a little bit about the program, and then we'll finish up and answer any questions that you have.
I want to thank you all again. Like Brian covered, we started in 2010. We had a couple of expected outcomes. We wanted to reduce the inmate population, reduce the operating costs of the detention center, and also make it be a self-funding program for the fiscal court. The cost per day currently in Clark County is $30.85 a day to house a prisoner. And if we've got a state inmate, we're paid $31.34. So they're doing a good job of keeping the budget in line. I mean, they're not making a whole lot of money, but at least they're not losing by housing an inmate. The original company that we went with, they had a couple of successes. It did reduce the inmate population and operating costs, but the results were marginal as far as showing a result of being self-funding for the court. The biggest problem was it was older technology that was being used. It required a landline telephone. The majority of people that were put on it were for 30 to 90 days. They couldn't get a landline telephone within 45. It was an extra expense for them, and we just didn't have the numbers that we were looking for on it. And also the cost of the program was it was kind of high compared to what we've got it at now. This was my opinion. When we took it over, the deputy that ran it before I did a fantastic job, but he was doing it more as a favor to the fiscal court and didn't have as much vested in it as I did. I saw that there was a great lack of local control. The monitoring was outsourced. We did not know what our enrollees were doing from 1 minute to the next. We were having, if something came in as far as a violation, they literally would fax us their GPS points as to where they were at. And if we wanted to check on somebody, we had to call us to be able to pull it up right then. They just weren't taking advantage of the technology that was out there. Let's see. This is kind of a breakdown of what we were at before. I think Brian went over it. The cost of it was $12 a day for a landline. With our company we're with now, we reduced it down to $9. We actually increased what the county makes by 75 cents. The big thing is the activation fee. We were doing the hookups, we were checking on the people, everything, and we were getting $25 out of $100 for the hookup fee. We reduced our activation fee to $50, and the county keeps the entire amount. And just the first week, by switching over the companies, the county went from making $46 off an enrollee to $76.25, and it reduced the enrollee cost by $71. So that's a huge savings just right.
In other words, it made it more affordable for the guy to get out of jail
Absolutely.
to start with.
Let's see. When we looked at the new company, there's a couple of criteria that we wanted to establish before we decided to go with anybody. We wanted local control. Now we do all our monitoring completely in-house. The biggest initial expense when we switched companies was this right here. We bought a dedicated laptop for $480, and we were off and running. That's all it took us to change over. We can now track our enrollees in near real time. If I want to pull up an enrollee, see where they're at, I've got within a 5-minute gap of where their last position was, and it's accurate to 3 foot where they're at. We want to know the facts and the columns. It might be half a day before we tell where somebody's at. We have to go physical.
See if I can interject. One of the things that this is important about is we share the same judges. Our district judges and our circuit judges are all the same in Clark and Madison County. So if Judge Neal on Wednesday docket, in fact this happened, we had a gentleman that didn't show up for court. He was on home incarceration. Under the old program, we had to notify the provider. He then contacted the outsource, the group that did the monitoring. They provided a fax to the monitoring company, who then sent us a fax. That might take a couple hours to do. In this particular case, Judge Neal says, "Where is John Doe?" Steve goes and pulls out his $490 computer. He goes to the program. He types in John Doe's name or identification number, and voila, we knew exactly where he was. And the beauty of it is, since Steve works for the sheriff's department and he has arrest powers, guess what? He hops in his cruiser. He drives down to the guy's house. He knocks on the door. He said, you're supposed to be in court today. You're not here. Please put your hands behind your back. You're under arrest. You violated the terms of your home incarceration. And guess what? He goes back into detention. So it was that quick. It was within 10 or 15 minutes. We had the person back in custody for violating the terms of his home incarceration program. So that's what he means by status of enrollees being tracked in near time.
This is kind of how we went so far. We started in July 10th, and we were doing our switchover of equipment. By the end of the month, we were averaging a little bit over 10. We had a high enrollment of 12. We had one person complete it during the time. We had 0 violations. What this amounted to as far as the savings for the county, the cost to lodge the 10 enrollees during that time would have been almost $6,500. With them being out, the cost to the county was $1,102.50. So just the savings alone was well over $5,000, and that's for 10 enrollees for a little bit over half a month is what it cost us. Let's see, in August it really took off. We had a high enrollment up to 22. We had 8 people completed during the program. So in essence, that's 30 people that we had bed space freed up for in our detention. Time we were not having a lodge. We had 2 people that violated the terms during the time. The cost of lodge for August, a little bit over 16,000. Our cost to monitor them, which they pay for, was under 3. So we had a significant savings starting in August of $13,491. September, we had a high enrollment of 25. We were averaging right around 23 with 7 completions. So once again, it's almost 30 beds that are freed up in our detention center that we're not having to fund for the people to stay there. Cost to lodge under, if they had to be there, a little bit over 21,000. Our cost to monitor them was $36.22. So even September, we saved 16,664, or I'm sorry, 17,664. So you can see that the numbers are always going up. If you notice from July to October, you'll see, keep seeing violations up there. The numbers started to go down. We're having less people violate the terms of home incarceration because they know we're not just hooking them up and forgetting about them. We're actually checking them, making them come in, do random drug tests. They're having to submit to the orders that they agree to in their home incarceration order. October, the cost to lodge the same enrollees, $18,170. Our cost to monitor in that time was just a little bit under $3,100. Let's see, November this month we're averaging right around 21.9. We've had 5 people complete and 0 violations. We're doing really good in November. People are starting to catch on. We're serious about the program, and it's a lot better for them than having to be inside the detention center. Expected savings in November, right now we're running a little bit over 11,000 versus what it would cost to house them.
What's them numbers at the bottom? That expected gross revenue, and what is that?
That is the cost of monitoring per day. It costs the county $5.25 a day. We could actually monitor them for $4.75, but we figured to add 50 cents on for the cost of it, and that covers the insurance on all of the equipment, which is basically this right here. If they tear this little unit up, it would cost the county $500 to replace it. By taking care of the insurance and pass the cost on to the enrollee, 50 cents. If they tear it up, so what? It's already covered. It's paid for.
Under the previous monitoring, if they tore it up, we had to eat that cost. Under this program, by buying the insurance, if they tear it up, that's fine. They tear it up, we don't have to worry about it. The fiscal court is covered because we bought the insurance. But the expected gross revenue is their daily rate of $9 plus the $50 hookup. And then we have taken out what we're having to pay stopwatch for the right to use their equipment, which is $2,315. So we're expecting income of $1,653.75 for this month, and we're saving costs that would otherwise be incurred by the fiscal court for paying them to be at the jail of $11,000. So the net revenue or the net benefit to the county is about $13,000.
With the expected revenue, that covers the expense of my salary, incidental expenses as far as copies, folders, just the stuff associated with running the program. It was never designed to be a windfall for the county, but we always want it to be a little bit more than self-sustaining, because if it's not coming out of what it cost them and it's still making money, that's great. But the big benefit is what it saves us every month on not having to lodge the detainees. Let's see, and this just kind of shows where we're at since we started. The blue line at the bottom goes over what the expenses would be to house the individuals, and the green line at the top shows what it actually costs us to monitor them, have them out, and the red line in the middle, the difference between the two is the profit to the county that supports the program. So there's a big gap over what it costs us in, say, November and December if we had to house them versus what it costs to monitor them. Let's see, a couple things about the Clark County Home Incarceration Program. It's under approval from either a district or circuit court judge. We actually use this a lot as a condition of pretrial release. If we've got somebody that's booked in on sort of a minor offense, or they're wanting to get out, they've got a 2-week court date. If the judge puts them on GPS monitoring with us, if there's a failure to appear or whatever, we can go get them right then. It cuts down on our transport costs, but we're not having to house the individual for 10 days to 2 weeks until they go to court. And it's not costing us anything to do it.
Typical infraction that a person be allowed to use this type of incarceration?
As far as sentencing or pretrial?
Pretrial, what are they usually?
We have had them anything from possession charges to
Shoplifting.
shoplifting, burglaries. We've actually used it a couple of times with great success in dealing with EPOs or domestic violence orders. When the person was released, that was a condition that they can't have they can have no contact with the individual that brought the EPO against them. Well, if they're monitored, it does two things. It lets us know where they're at, and if there's a reported violation, we can either prove it or disprove it. As soon as somebody comes out and it's for an EPO or DVO violation, if the petitioner says, well, they were here, we can check it, we can verify it. We've got an open and shut case. Well, the defendant knows not to be where he's not supposed to be, and we can prove it. But it also keeps the petitioner from potentially filing a false report on them being there also. It's cooled down a couple of situations for us that could have ended badly.
So you'll have some kind of exclusionary zone, so you can say you can be anywhere that you want to while you're pending these charges, with the exception
You
of
can't be at Kmart.
near Greg's house,
You can't
right?
be at Kmart because that's where she works, and you can't be at Hillcrest Manor because that's where she lives.
So what you can do is dictate where these people are supposed to be, home or work or school or whatever, or you can dictate where they're not supposed to be, within 1,000 feet of the victim, for instance, or where she works, or by a daycare, or what have you.
Does that track them by time, so you know if it's 2:05 or 2:10 or whatever?
It will give us a date. It will give us a date and a specific time, and give us a point where they were on that particular date. Well, under House Bill 463, as you all probably anguished over, I know that there was some discussion about whether that bill was good or not. One of the things is it has now changed the way that our judges can dictate what their bonds are and whether or not they're surety bonds or ROR. And so what we do is our judges have now said, look, we're going to let you out on a surety, but we're going to make it modified conditions of release. We're going to put you on a bracelet. And with that, we have a home incarceration order that we do. And what it does is it allows us to drug test them. They sign it up. They're subject to drug testing. They're subject to us being able to go in and search their house, including their computers. So let's say that it's an EPO situation and they're not supposed to have any contact, and somebody calls and says, well, Billy Bob sent me an email. He's not supposed to. Well, Steve can go over and he's got his order that says, this agreement that says by signing this, I agree to the following terms, which includes access to my computer. He can go over there and say, hey, guess what? Billy Bob, have a seat. I'm going to get on your computer, check his sent mail, check his history, and find out whether or not there was actually some communication through there. So we've drafted it. We've also allowed for work excuses, for instance, flagrant non-support, child support. Somebody says, well, I know I'm behind, but I've got a job, and if I go to jail and stay, I'm going to lose my job. Our work release program through our jail is $35 a day. Well, this costs $9 a day. I can put this person on GPS monitoring. I know where he is. When he leaves work release from the jail, I don't know where he's going. I presume somebody's picking him up, taking him to work, coming back. But with this bracelet on there, I know when he leaves. I know where he goes. If he says my hours are 8 to 4 at Sekasui, then I can check from 8 to 4 and see if he's at Sekasui. If he's not there, guess what? He's violated. I can bring him back. So it enables us to monitor that, and everything is done in-house. And here's the other benefit. Right now we have a 165 bed facility. We have 152 people in our detention center. 37 of those are state inmates, so we're getting paid for 37 of those. We have 22 people on today. So if we had the 152 plus our 22, we'd have 174 people in a 165 bed facility. State doesn't like it. The state has told us when we start going over our numbers, they don't want their state inmates sleeping on floors, on pallets. You know, we gotta have a bed for them. But by doing the home incarceration program, we've been able to reduce our numbers so that we can increase the number of state inmates in our facility so that we can now generate income. So we're not only having savings, we're actually making a little bit of money.
Brian, when that prisoner is, say he's out in home incarceration, whatever, does the state still pay the jail that?
No. We don't put any state inmates on the home incarceration program. This is just county, because as much as I'm a taxpayer for the state, but guess what? I represent the county of Clark, and I want to make sure we're saving money. So, you know, I want the state inmate in there because he's paying my fiscal court money to keep those inmates there. So everybody that we put out are just county inmates.
Or you'll do pretrial, won't you, for families?
Yeah, we will do pretrial. Yeah.
And you said that the reduction on Clark County was about 12 prisoners, is that right?
22.
22. And you all got how many prisoners?
152 in the detention center.
So we could get up to 30. Is there a limit?
No, it's however many. I mean, what we've done is we've negotiated with Stopwatch, and we told them, look, we're going to need about 30 of these little bracelets. We're going to need about 30 of these with straps. And they will allow us to keep 20% of this stock without it being hooked up. We only pay for the ones we hook up. So if at the end of the month I've got 10 of these little guys sitting on the shelf, I'm not getting paid. I'm not having to pay. Our fiscal court's not paying for those 10. Those are kind of like our inventory.
Until they're activated. So it doesn't hurt us any. So we tell Stopwatch, look, we might have up to 30. Send us 30. We've got 22 on there, so we're still running about that 20%.
So you don't buy those, you just rent them?
We just lease them.
What about the liabilities if, say this prisoner does something, who assumes that liability?
If he commits another offense?
Yes.
We haven't had that come up, but, you know, here's the reality of the situation. If, with the changes in House Bill 463 and some of the bond conditions that have to be done, and also with just the concept of our jail population. If I know my jail's got 208 people, and I know they're getting ready they can't fit anybody else out there, when I go to court, I've got 47 people on that day, I've got to make a judgment call. Do I put 209 in there? Do I put 220 people in there? Because I've got just as much liability to our county. If I stick 300 people in my 165 bed jail and somebody gets hurt or somebody gets sick or I've got just as much liability from our jail does from housing that many people as if I do if I put somebody on. And that's why we're very careful about who we put on. If your EPO violation was violent, it was you beat somebody up, guess what? You're not going on the bracelet. If it was you made a phone call and asked about your kid and it was a technical violation, or you drove by the house, you didn't say anything, you drove by the house twice, that would be something that we would monitor. But, you know, and on some of the burglaries, they're more of the burglaries where it's a kid who's broken into his mom or dad's house because he's on drugs. I can put him on that bracelet and allow him to go ahead and get treatment and everything. The other thing that's very important is we have 2 people that are right now in the University of Kentucky Medical Center. It ain't cheap. They're going on bracelets. Once they're out, and if somebody comes in and says, look, I've got kidney dialysis, and let's say it was a shoplifter, and they're on kidney dialysis, and they got to go 3 days a week to get treatment, put them on home incarceration, say, what days do you go to the hospital? Said, you're free to leave your house from 8 o'clock in the morning to 3 o'clock in the afternoon for your dialysis. They take their Medicaid card with them or their insurance card, and
They pay for it. The county doesn't pay for it.
If, I know the old system, I know the new system probably a lot better than it was in past years. Now, if they cut that bracelet, does it automatically trigger you?
If there's a bracelet strap violation, such as tampering or with it being cut, I'll have a notification sent to my cell phone within 15 seconds.
The old system didn't do that.
Right. And it's also considered an escape. And here's the other thing, is we're charging $9 and a $50 hookup fee. But here's the reality of it. It's costing us $5.25 for the program. If I've got somebody in there that has no money and says, I can't afford that, I can't afford $9 a day, it's almost worth it to the fiscal court to say, you know what? You're indigent, you meet the criteria for indigency, the fiscal court will pay your $5.25 because I'd rather pay $5.25 than pay $30.84 to put you in jail because you meet all the other criteria. You're a shoplifter, you got caught with possession of marijuana, a non-violent offense, you're flagrant non-support. It's cheaper for the fiscal court to pay the $5.25, which is our cost, than it is to pay the $31. I don't know what your jail costs are per day, but you know it's easy.
We don't either.
Okay.
We just see the bottom line.
You've got to provide some kind of sliding scale for people that can't afford to get to go. You can't say we're going to let rich folks participate and poor folks not. So there has to be a way to take care of those people.
But what we found out is that at this rate, very rarely do we have anybody that has not been. We had one person that said they couldn't get it, and they ended up coming up with the money, didn't they?
We actually had two said they couldn't come up with it. We would put it on a review with the judge, decide if they were indigent. They didn't want to wait another week, and miraculously, they paid a month in advance.
Would we take that money out of the commissary to pay for that? Would that be legal, Mark?
It's their money.
No, the commissary is jail money. This is fiscal court. The commissary, he has certain
That agreement then would be
restrictions.
made with the fiscal
Well,
court.
you all can decide how you want it. You can make it with the jail. And the reason we didn't is because one of the things that my commissioners and my judge feel is, you know, they sometimes feel hamstrung because the jail is a constitutional officer. He has a separate responsibility and he is in charge of that jail. The fiscal court cannot dictate to the jail what their policies and procedures are, but you all control the purse strings.
Well, but we do approve those.
So your jail has adopted your employment,
Yes, they've been.
You're talking more about a budgetary concern, aren't you? That you're in charge of their budget, right?
yeah. And that's right. You all control the purse strings. You all are the budget, but if your jailer wants to hire a particular deputy or implement a policy or buy certain things, if it's in their budget, if they want to buy televisions, if it's in their budget, they can do that, and you don't have any control. So we designed this so that we answer now to our fiscal court. And so we created a position of home incarceration director that answers to the fiscal court. They act as a liaison between the fiscal court and the district court or circuit court to do that. And we're looking into other alternatives. And one of the things that we've talked with our district judges and our circuit judges is the possibility of putting juveniles. Now, a hidden cost that
That'd be a big savings.
well, here's what you all probably don't realize. You all go to Fayette County. I mean, if Judge Shepard issues a pickup order and that child is picked up, somebody from your sheriff's department picks that child up, drives that child to Fayette County, and comes back. So that's one round trip and a deputy's.
You go back the next morning, get him, come back. and
Within
drive.
72 hours, they've got to go back and pick them up and come back, even if it's a violation for truancy or beyond control or running away. If we set some parameters, we're looking at to whether or not it would meet the qualifications to say, you know what, I'm going to pick this kid up because he's not going to school. Well, if he's not going to school, I just want him in school. We're going to put him on a bracelet and we're going to track him. And we're going to have our hearing within 72 hours, but we've saved 2 round trips to the Fayette County Detention Center. We've saved the time of the deputy, we've saved the gas, the wear and tear on the car, and his mom and daddy can bring him to court in 72 hours.
Plus the lodging fees.
Yeah, plus the lodging fees
Is
that
this a
you all pay.
full-time position for you?
It's not supposed to be.
It's full-time.
We'll be in Madison County.
Well,
Yes and no, sir.
Let me give you an example. Of course, we're overcrowded. We average anywhere from 80 to 100 overcrowding. Had some other problems. I got a letter from the commissioner the other day. Had 30 days to to correct some of these issues, or they were going to take all the state prisoners out of the jails. We had at that time, I think, 45 state prisoners. That's about $1,500 a day that we lose by taking the state prisoners out every time they do. When we get overcrowded, they'll come and take 4 or 5 or 8 or 10. So if we've got the beds open where we can keep them and get these non-violent people out of the jail, open the beds up and stuff, it's a plus for us if we didn't make any money off this.
Well, and a lot of them, some of the people that we put on there, AI and disorderly. Judge Moore had the best saying. He said, you know what, you wouldn't have been disorderly if you hadn't been drunk. But you still put them in there for 14 or 15 days. Well, they sober up. They're easy as can be. You put them on a bracelet, you send them home, because we can actually get I'll call the scram bracelets from this company. And if someone says, I don't have the money for $9, we actually can do landline. This is a GPS. It goes wherever they go, just like your cell phone. If there's a cell phone signal, you're going to get this signal. But you can actually do landline. I think it's $2.95.
Less than $3 a day on cost.
Is our cost. So there's a lot of options with this stopwatch. And we're looking at the possibility of hiring another person and allow Steve to do the hookups and hire somebody else to collect the money. And here's the other thing, is if they fall behind on their money, we actually have, how many show calls in December? 13?
We've got 13 show calls orders, and since they were issued, we've had 4 paid in full.
So what we do is we monitor when they're behind. Steve comes up to our office and says, hey, Joe hasn't paid his home incarceration, he's $100 behind. We issue a motion for show cause why he shouldn't be held in contempt, because one of the orders says, I agree to be in compliance with all the terms of home incarceration. If I don't, I understand that would be a violation. So instead of just arresting them, we send them a little notice and says, guess what, you got to be in court on December the 13th to see why you shouldn't be put back in jail, because you haven't paid your fees. So we sent out 13, we've had 4 of them already pay in full. And on the 13th, they'll either come up with the money, it'll either be pay or stay.
So you do the billing too?
Let me ask one thing, Brian. It's really a no-brainer. What you all are doing is great. With the population we have over here and the dockets that Mark and his staff have, I mean, it's kind of really a no-brainer. But Steve, let me ask you this. Do you go like, are you in court? Do you go to the jail and put the bracelets on them?
Yes, sir, I'll put them up.
So you,
I'll put them up in the courtroom, I'll put them up in the jail. I prefer to bring them down to the sheriff's office, put them up, that way they realize the gravity of the situation, we are serious.
and you're deputized, so you can take them anywhere you want, take them to the office or whatever. That's the good thing about it, that you have the authority to go in, check computers. You have the authority to do anything you want to.
Not just the authority, but also the training, as Brian alluded to. There's a couple of deputies, I mean, we can go in there, we're certified on electronic crowd searches, so we can look at their cell phones, we can look at their computers. It's not overly invasive, but if somebody is trying to hide one, such as a sex offender that is in non-compliance, we know how to find it.
I paid for 2 city officers, 2 county officers to go to cell phone forensic training, and Steve is one of those. And so it works out great for me, because I've got some money invested in him, but now when he goes and checks, I know it's just not going around going, okay, you're here. I know that if we know that the person is something dealing with his cell phone, he sent me a text, he sent me this, he has the ability to not only look at the cell phone, he can do the triangulation, he can do everything associated with that cell phone, and he has the power of arrest. So if he finds out there's a violation, guess what? We don't have to call and say, when the previous monitoring company, they said, well, there's a violation, you better, and they'd send us an email, and then I'd have to prepare a show cause order, and then that show cause order had to be approved by the judge, and then it had to be done. Our order that the judge signed said if there's any violation, you'll be taken directly to jail. It's kind of like Monopoly. Do not pass go, do not collect $100. Go directly to jail.
Like you need to get a cut out of it.
Well, but that's not what it's for. It's not about us. I mean, it's about what can we do as responsible government elected officials to minimize the cost to our taxpayers, maximize the efficiency with which we operate, while still making sure that we're seeing that justice is done as it relates to offenders.
What's your position?
I'm the county attorney in Clark County.
I think it sounds like a wonderful program that we ought to really.
Is there the capability to make this proactive so that you, like for an EPO case, you could set up a boundary and that person, if they went inside that boundary, it would notify the sheriff's department?
Exclusionary zone is that you can say you can go anywhere you want to.
But it does notify before I have to call and say, I saw him here, it
Yeah.
notifies
You
you.
trigger it immediately, or as immediately as technology.
Within 15, 30 seconds.
That's good protection for the people that file the EPO.
You can set up an exclusionary zone, you can set up an inclusionary zone, where they've got to be a certain time frame. You can set their schedule 24 hours a day, a month in advance. And if they're supposed to be at work, here's your schedule. You got X number of minutes to get there, you better be in this spot this time, or you're gonna get called, explain why you're not there.
And a lot of this is very consistent with Amanda's bill that was passed 2 or 3 years ago when protecting victims of domestic violence. The pre-trials, you can't necessarily dictate what all they're doing, but you can keep them out of something for protecting.
Right.
And that's very consistent with those years.
For instance, this particular young lady, we have her on home incarceration, and on 10/13 at 10:54, we can actually show you where she was. And we can tell you there were 9 satellites that were operational at trying to find this location. There were 5 of them that actually used to pinpoint her location. So we've actually got every dot shows her movements from 10:13 at 10:54 to 11:18. She was actually driving on 64 in the Mountain Parkway.
It gives us a speed and direction of travel. A good way of looking at it, in essence, the home incarceration director is a misdemeanor probation parole officer.
Where's this company located at, the leasing company?
The stop is located in Texas. Our rep is based out of Louisiana.
And when we order, we're low right now on bracelets. He's called, they'll be here Monday. You know, when we were using the prior monitoring company, they may or may not. They may tell us, look, we've got all of our units being used, you know, in Bell County, and we just don't have any extra to get up here. It's going to be 2 or 3 weeks before you get there. We call these guys and say, look, we got 5 more that need to be hooked up, and we don't have enough bracelets. We only got 3 bracelets. They'll say, how many you need? We need 5 or 6 or 7. They'll ship them.
They send everything out second day of the year. If there's a problem with our equipment, something needs to be replaced, they pay the shipping costs back to the company. We were literally out $0 up front to switch over.
I'm like the judge, I think it's a win-win
Yeah,
situation.
it is. Mark's been a big advocate of this, and I've met with a couple of companies, but Brian, like you and Steve were talking about, you know, it's just all us and no you. I mean, that's the way it's been, their proposals, and I just never was interested and really wasn't interested in even them coming in. And then when, you know, I talked to you, Mark and I came over and met with you and Steve, and I might add that Steve has volunteered, if indeed we initiate this program and get involved, is help train an officer that could do his job.
And the beauty of doing somebody from some people say, well, why don't you use the jail? Well, that jail employee only has authority when he's in jail, you know, within the confines. He's, you know, although there's a deputy in Fayette County thinks he can run up and down the road with blue lights on and pull people over, you know, there's some issues there. But, you know, if you've got a deputy sheriff, and your sheriff will work with you, number one, they got to come every week to pay their money at the sheriff's office. You know, people walking around with guns and, you know, it just lends some gravity to the situation. They understand that we're serious, and if your officer has the ability to arrest, it works out great. But, you know, I would be more than willing, if you want, I can send you our home incarceration director position. We actually wrote a position, a job description. We incorporated that into the Clark County Fiscal Court Policy Employee Manual and job descriptions. We actually have gotten all the orders, the work release orders. If someone says they're going on work release, we require that they fill an affidavit out and their employer has to sign it. So we just don't take their word for it. If they say, I'm working at Second Sue and I work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, we say, that's great. If you don't mind, go fax this to your supervisor, fill out the times you work, make sure he signs it and gets it back to us before we're going to let you out on work release. Otherwise, we'll hook you up today and you just go home and sit. Once we get that back, we'll authorize work release.
And any information sent into our office as far as where they're going, whatever, it is verified. It's not just somebody that sent a fax or we don't check.
Doctor's offices, doctor's visits.
And all the work release and doctor's visits and so forth, those are all set up by court too, but the reality of it is, we don't have anyone to monitor that. Now you have the instantaneous notification if they're not doing what it is they're willing to do.
It sounds like a good program. I don't see how we can use one person and do ours. And we're talking about
you
Probably can't,
can.
Roger.
And we've come to that realization, we really need about 3 Steves. But we started this thing in July, and the number one thing that we wanted to make sure was, is it going to work? I mean, we didn't want to hire 3 people, go out, get out the calls, figure out
what health insurance is gonna cost, all of the other benefits associated with it, and then come 3 months down the road and say, "Phew, boy, we made a mistake there." So we started with the other company first to see if it didn't. We've now gone in-house, and it looks like this is actually saving us some money. We're not gonna make a whole lot of money on the bottom end, because you will have some people who are indigent, some people that can't pay, but we're gonna break even. So we're breaking even with the program, and we're having all the savings from the jail, and that's the key, folks. If we can get county prisoners out and state inmates in, I mean, they were going to pull every one of our state inmates. We got a 30-day deficiency letter. We had too many people, not enough beds. They said, we're going to pull every state inmate you've got. That's, we've got 37 right now. 37 times 30, we're making $900 a day, $27,000 a month.
Well, they'll threaten you, but they don't have room either.
Yeah, but I'm afraid they'll find some places doing it.
Yeah, they do. There are plenty of jails that are begging for state prisoners. Well, Brian, if there are no more questions, I want to tell you how much I appreciate you all, you and Steve, because I know how busy county attorneys stay.
Well, we're going to leave you a copy of the PowerPoint presentation with all the slides so that you all can look at that. We're also going to this is our intake sheet that we do for home incarceration program, and then he has a file on everybody that he keeps notes on when they get hooked up. We'll leave that with you, and then yeah, okay, and so did you pass that? Did you already give that to him? Yes. Okay. So the rest of the stuff should be in there, the work release order and all that, but we'll have all that for you.
Brian?
Thank you all.
Probably what I'd like to do is go on and meet with the sheriff and the jailer and talk to them a little bit about this, look at personnel matters, and I guess I'd like the court's permission why we're here today talking about this, and it's on everybody's mind, to authorize me to go on and meet with the sheriff and the jailer, and then if the sheriff wants to go along with it, along with the jailer, then kind of let them proceed with maybe interviewing some people that might want to meet with Steve. We'd want the job description first. Steve, if you could send that to us.
I've actually got it on I'll just go ahead and email it to you.
If you email it to us.
And Judge, you may want to go ahead and put it in there that you have the authority to contact the equipment provider, not to enter into any type of leases, but for leases start inquiring as to what type of services they can provide to you.
And it is a service, so you don't have to bid it out. It's not like one of these things. When you actually have, we had to bid out when we took bids for the program. We had a third party, but since we are doing it kind of in-house,
They're just providing a service by providing us with the bracelets. We didn't have to bid it out.
It's a specialized service, which allows you to do that.
So you don't have to, so anything, normally if it's 20,000 or more, you got to do all that bidding. You don't have to do that now.
We appreciate it. Steve, we'll be calling. We'll need your assistance.
Anything I can help you with, like I said, one of the good things about this program is it builds a lot of relationships between our sheriff's office and other counties. We do have quite a few of those that are outside law. We have a really good working relationship, so if something does happen in another county, we really like know somebody to talk to up there if they need about it. So,
Okay.
I encourage you not to be on insurance when you talk to them.
Okay.
Fellas, thank you. It's a good program.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks, Steve. We appreciate it.
Judge, you want a motion to that effect?
Go ahead.
I just think that we should have the sheriff and the jailer come into our next meeting, that you talk to them, then come into the next meeting before we determine anything about what we're gonna do and not gonna do.
Oh, I think that's a good idea. I think you can start doing some investigation as far as cost and so forth, but I think you need to go a little bit along with that.
My concern is they didn't see it as that they'd be employee of the physical court and still the sheriff or the jailer.
Well, there'd be a sheriff. They would answer to fiscal court, but they would be a deputy sheriff.
There'd have to be a deputy to
Yeah,
enforce.
Well, now, what other counties will do, they'll have it run by the jail, and there'll be an agreement with the sheriff's office that upon a violation, that they'll immediately go ahead and do the arresting. When you run it through the sheriff, of course, you don't have that intermediary. It's just they've got the automatic powers of arrest. But it can be done through the jail too. It's just a matter of efficiencies.
Well, I was thinking maybe we might have somebody in-house to do that, but they're not deputized anyway. So you about have to go through the sheriff's department.
Or have the sheriff enforce the violation
cooperate with the jailer. But like Mark said, then you've got, well, he's got a violation here, then he's got to call the sheriff's office, and the sheriff's office got to send somebody out to do, where if it's in the sheriff's office, they can go directly out like Steve does directly to the.
Well, I'm sure the sheriff will work with you.
And what you probably have is somebody having at least a shift at a time. And again, I know Steve is here with all the work over there and has done a fantastic job with this program, but you're already out growing again. Probably need here at least one person per shift doing this. Because, you know, folks don't quit committing crimes at 2 o'clock in the morning, maybe it's the opposite. So you've got to have somebody to monitor this 24 hours a day. And one person certainly can't do that.
Okay, I'm gonna go on and follow up with the information, get some information on the outfit out of Texas as far as, the equipment, and then I'll meet with Jerry and Doug, talk to them, and then we'll come back, the three of us will come back with, kind of a report to you all next court meeting.
Sounds good.
Okay, let's go on. We're running a little bit behind, so we'll kind of breeze on through this. Next is Resolution 1122, a pay resolution for the food bank, and it's ready-mix concrete for $1,340. It's been approved and sent in, and a motion be in order to approve Resolution 1123.
So moved.
Second.
Master King,
Yes.
Master Barger,
Yes.
Master Hughes,
Yes.
Master Combs,
Yes.
Judge Clark.
Yes. Next is second reading of ordinance 1114, land use change, James Tyree, 3186 Battlefield Memorial Highway from C7 Community Agriculture to C4 Community General Commercial for 5.89 acres. I think that we covered both sides, all the bases, so we're not gonna go through all that again. I'd like to ask, is there anybody that wasn't at the first reading that would like to come forth for or against the proposed zone change in front of the court? If not, I don't think the court's minds have changed, so I would accept a motion to approve ordinance 1114.
So moved.
Second.
Master King,
Yes.
Master Barger,
Yes.
Master Hughes,
Yes.
Master Combs,
No.
Judge Clark.
No. Second reading of ordinance 1116, land use change, Madison Development Partners. It's at 400 Menless Road from UC1 Urban Quarter Single Family Residential to UC4 Urban Quarter General Commercial for 1.33 acres. I think we all talked about that. Is there anybody in court that it was passed? Is there anybody that would like to object to the proposed zone change at 400 Menless Pike? If not, a motion would be in order to approve second reading of ordinance 1116.
So moved.
Second.
Master King,
Yes.
Master Barger,
Yes.
Master Hughes,
Yes.
Master Combs,
Yes.
Judge Clark.
Yes. Next is second reading of ordinance 1115, labeling of structures using engineered lumber. I think Dwayne explained that completely. It's a recommendation from Chief Cox, and that is the floor joist. If there are no questions, I think we went over all that the last meeting. A motion would be in order to approve that on the recommendation of Chief Cox.
So moved.
Second.
Master King,
Yes.
Master Barger,
Yes.
Master Hughes,
Yes.
Master Combs,
Yes.
Judge Clark.
Yes. Next is our 2012 calendar. This is really an executive order, but I've always asked the court to discuss this, and I like them to approve it. We have talked to the state and the feds, and we're taking the same days that the state will be closed. There really isn't a whole lot of sense when the clerk has no operational computers, the circuit clerk is out, the judges are out. There's really nothing to do here in the courthouse unless you want to come into my office and shoot the bull. So we've always tried to go along with what the state and the feds do, and you've got a proposal here, New Year's Day, one day, January 2nd, Martin Luther King Day, President's Day, we get a half day for Good Friday, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Columbus Day, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving break, and Christmas.
Judge, to your knowledge, are there any dates that are inconsistent with the state or federal holidays?
No, sir.
I think.
The only thing on there is not, since it's a presidential cycle, the state will be closed on
Yeah.
the general election of presidential.
Instead of Columbus Day, the state's taking election day.
But we couldn't get a notification, and it wasn't on the federal calendar when we looked at both of them, and that's why we didn't put it on here. But we will be closed. Everybody, as a presidential election.
Columbus Day come them off the list?
Yes. We'll trade out with that on that, Mark. That's why we didn't have that on there, but it'll be this many days. I don't really need a vote, but is there any objection to this? Everybody okay with that? Okay, if not, we'll go into
I
the,
understand they won't be a Columbus Day.
there will not be a
Okay.
Columbus Day. That will take the place of the presidential election.
Yes.
Next on the judge's report, a couple of things. The Chamber Awards Banquet will be November 29th at King Johnson. Reception at 6, dinner at 7. That's the Chamber's biggest event each year, and it's always super nice. And I'm glad they've moved it a little earlier because we've usually had ice storms and snowstorms and stuff, so I think we'll see a lot. I like the date a lot better. The community Christmas tree was donated by Michael and Wilma Barnett, and it's going to be really nice. I want to thank them and appreciate it, and we'll introduce them at the tree lighting. During the parade, the Christmas parade in Richmond will be December 2nd, and there'll also be the tree lighting at 6:30 in front of the courthouse. The Berea Christmas parade will be December the 3rd, the next night at 7 o'clock. And then I've got a note from Philip. The Battle of Richmond Visitor Center is hosting one of the overall Confederate Commander Major General Edmund Kirby Smith's great-great-grandsons today. This is the first time one of the Kirby Smith's family has visited the battlefield here in Richmond. And finally, I want to change the next court meeting for December to Monday the 12th, if that suits everybody. We've got a Kentucky Emergency Management Workshop going on, and I think several of us want to attend that. And then we've got some meetings up there on Tuesday, so I'd like to move that to Monday if that suits everybody. If not, that's all I have in the judge's report. We're going to comments from department heads. Carl, do you have anything today? Okay, if not, comments from magistrates, Greg?
Just, I'm glad to be able to serve the people, and I know it ain't election year or nothing like that, but I still want to thank everybody for their confidence they found in me to put me here in their seat, and I'm trying my best to do the best job for the people of Madison County, and I just want to thank all of them out there today. That's it.
Thank you. Roger?
I'm just curious, does the road department, of course, they probably have more equipment than any other department as far as that goes. Do they have a tracking where they can tell what was spent on each truck or vehicle?
Absolutely. We can tell you when the oil was changed, how much oil was put in it. Anything, any penny that was spent on any particular vehicle, they can give you a report on it. Monthly, yearly, whatever.
Dead animal truck, bought a winch for it, and this might be minimal to a lot of people, but $1,600 and some dollars, and it's $25 shipping fee. Bought it through a third party. I got online and got a hold of the same company that the winch brand is. Could buy it for $1,300 and some dollars and no charge for shipping at all. I don't know why we need to go through a middleman to buy these parts like this when you can save.
Well, when the winch, we buy 3 or 4, Glenna, 3 or 4 a year. They go out, and they wear out, and then when one goes out, you really, you have to pay shipping to get one the next day because you can't wait 5 or 6 or 7 days to get a winch.
What happens to the old winches?
On the way.
They've got to be good for scrap. What happens to her?
Now, Roger, I don't keep up with winches. Have you talked to Leroy?
No, I haven't.
That could be a good
Well,
thing to do before you come.
I mean, Leroy can
You wouldn't be the one to know.
tell you exactly where they go. I'm sure they're recycled or something's done with them.
Well, I mean, we never see where there's any money put back in the account where we sold scrap, and scrap's bringing big money right now.
Well, that'd go to solid waste, Roger.
But everything I've seen down there, they scrap out and reuse for parts. They fix everything.
Well, I mean, there's beds that rust out and stuff that you can't use,
Do you have anything else, Roger?
Yeah, sure, I've got something else. There's lumber was bought out of Augusta, Kentucky,
Now, see, you need to be talking to Leroy about this, Roger. You don't need to be bringing this up in court. You don't need to be sitting here asking me, because you know I don't have time to worry about where a winch goes or where we buy lumber.
Half the time, when I ask one of them, they're gonna say, you need to talk to the judge.
No, not when you ask something about where something was purchased.
No, I know exactly.
Leroy's told you 1,000 times. All you gotta do is ask me,
Oh, I know
I'll
that.
show you.
I know that.
I'll give you the invoices on them. Stacy will, you know, but there's no reason to come up
Well,
and bring that up in court when all you have to do is make a phone call or drive down to the road department.
I don't wanna waste anybody else's time or mine, because when I do that, they're gonna tell you I've been down there, and then you're gonna call me and wanna talk about it.
Well, you're wasting everybody's time here instead of making a phone call.
I mean, you may be in a hurry to get somewhere else, but we need to talk about these things in court.
We're talking about what, a scrap winch?
Not a scrap winch, but the new winch that we spent more money for, plus the scrap that we're not showing where it's.
Leroy
where it's
couldn't be
at.
here today, but I'll have Leroy come the next meeting and explain to you about the winches.
No, I'm not.
Glenna.
It's do with the road department, not finance department.
Okay, what else, Roger?
That's it.
We'll check the lumber. Billy Ray?
Well, what I wanted to say is I'm encouraged. We had our joint intergovernmental meeting here at the Extension Office the other day, and I'm encouraged by the three governments getting together, because, you know, it allows us to cooperatively find common ground on areas that we can work on. And I think that's really positive. We move it at maybe it seemed like a slow pace, but it's a healthy pace. You know, Berea, they may have things that they're interested in that we're not really interested in, but we are finding common ground, and I think it's a good thing. I think we're moving in the right direction as the three governments, and I believe good's going to come from it, and it already has.
It's a positive thing, and it's for those of you all who don't know that the three governments have agreed to meet collectively every 2 months, and we each alternate as a sponsor and buy a box lunch or whatever, and we talk about whatever anybody might have on their mind. We particularly like to look at things that we could be doing maybe closer together, working to save taxpayers' dollars. If there's some services that we could work together to provide and save some resources. So it's good. We've had 3 of them, and some good's going to come out of them. I really believe that. But it's great that we've got this interlocal we're all on the same page. We're all there to do the right thing and save taxpayers' money and provide the very best services in the county. So Billy Ray, it's a good comment. Thank you for bringing that up. Larry?
I like that word, common ground. I would hope this court would find that before this year's up. But other than that, I'm just glad to be here, Judge.
Glad to have you. I got one thing I want to read here, and this is to the editor, and I write this letter in order to recognize and give thanks to Chief Jim Cox, the Madison County Fire Department, and EMTs for the excellent way they handled our fire in Milford Estates in Richmond on June 8th. These men were caring, well-trained, and well-disciplined in how to handle a house fire with as little damage as possible to the homeowner. Russell Regal. And Jim, we want to thank you and your department, and that's really good when you can get compliments like that and people take time out to thank you. Any comments from the audience? Yes, ma'am?
Could you come to the mic, please?
Yes.
My name is Debbie Secchio. Good to see you all. I've only attended a few meetings, so please be patient with my questions. On number 2, the resolution 1122 for the food bank, I'm just curious to know, is that a regularly scheduled payout?
They submit bills to us. That's a CDBG, Community Development Block Grant, along with volunteered services. So the Development Block Grant, we act as the fiscal agent. So any payments that they make has to be approved by fiscal court, and then we issue the money and reimburse from the grant.
Okay, I wasn't clear about whether that was just a special because of the holiday. And also, is that the food bank that's open to anyone?
Well, I mean, it's based on income. You couldn't make $50,000 and go out and get food for 4, but they've got a great director out there, and he looks at each and every one. I mean, they serve thousands a month, and it's a wonderful project, and we're very fortunate to have one in Richmond and one in Berea.
Yeah, I agree. Now, does that overlap with the families that get the food stamps? Does that overlap, or do we not know if it
Now,
overlaps?
that's up to the food bank director. I
Right,
mean,
he
they
takes care of
coordinate all
those
that.
questions.
We have nothing to do with that. We're a fiscal agent for.
You just pay it out.
We just pay it out. When they send the bill in, it's approved by the overseer or the grant writer. He signs off on it, sends it to us, then we approve it and pay it.
This grant is only for the building of the building. Like, once we're done with this building, this grant's over, they run their own. We have nothing to do with theirs.
Very good. That answers a lot of my other questions. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Fingernails.
Any other comments from the audience? If not, a motion to pay the claims and approve the transfers.
So moved.
Master King,
Yes.
Master Barger,
Yes.
Master Hughes,
Yes.
Master Cone,
Yes.
Judge Clark.
Yes. Thank everybody for coming in. We appreciate a good crowd. A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Yeah.
Favor.
Daggone, what do you, I want that on DS code.